So my next bamboo cutting session is going to be, my sword of choice is going to be this very hefty JKKO custom built sword, T10 blade, very wide, multi-haba all the way through. It's a very beefy blade. It's kind of similar to the Hanwei Tacticool XL. Let's see if I can get you a closer look at it here. Very, very wide, beefy blade, heavy blade too, an Okazaki tip, T10 blade, like I said, very hefty sword. I mean, this is probably like a 3 pound plus sword. So I'm gonna try to get some nice controlled, powerful cuts out of it to get some bamboo sessions in today. So JKKO sword coming up. So this is the JKKO sword from SinoSwords that I made up, and this is probably my least favorite sword to cut with. In terms of aesthetics, I love it. I love how it came out. I love the fit and finish. I chose to go with a very wide blade, and just how they made it, you just left so much steel on it. It's kind of partially my fault because that's how I requested it. It's definitely a great cutter. I mean, it's a power cutter. I mean, it definitely goes through. But the only problem with that, what it is the fact that it's very hard to stop. It's very hard to control and get yourself control cuts. You notice I actually smacked right into the PVC pipe there, but there was no damage on the edge from doing that. But it took a nice chunk out of the PVC pipe, which I'll show you later in the video. No parent damage. Everything looks good. Had some drag cuts there, but the blade looks really good. Not bent. Good shape. Let's try some more. Combination of just it being a very heavy sword and having the stands a little too close together, I kind of had a little predicament with the Okazaki tip, just slamming it into the solid oak stand, which you're going to see coming up in the video. I think it's probably coming up on this cut here, or cut where I'm kind of cutting towards the right of the screen. I mean, it's definitely a fun sword to cut. It's just very hard to control it, and it's very hard to stop it, and it's hard to get really fine cuts with it. It's definitely not a trick sword. There you go, right there, bang, right into the stand. Damage report. Notice with my last cut, kind of screwed up my tip on the Okazaki by deflecting it into the other stand. I don't know if you can see it right there. I mean, it can easily be fixed. I could definitely make another point out of it. But, you know, well noted, the Okazaki tips are not the best tips in the world if you're doing some cutting, because it finds out the edge a little bit too much and kind of just, you have little situations like this where you kind of just mock up the edge. I mean, given I did hit it into a wooden stand, but it definitely messed up the point. I could definitely put a new point in this with a little work, but just to be noted, Okazaki tip on this JKKO sword did kind of snap off, wedging it into a solid oak stand. So, you know, it could happen, definitely does happen, but I definitely could get it fixed. But I think I could definitely get some more cuts out of it because the rest of the blade is absolutely fine. So to be noted, when I was cutting with the JKKO sword, I did cut into the PVC piping, which is a pretty healthy cut right there, but there was no apparent damage to the T10 blade from the JKKO, other than slamming the tip into the wooden stand right over here, which you can see the cut that kind of met the Okazaki tip met its demise. So other than that, it took a nice chunk into the PVC pipe without seeing any damage, which I was happy about. But the tip can definitely be fixed. So since I kind of had a sword down, the Okazaki tip broke on the JKKO sword, I decided to bring in my trusty reserve, my Tacticool, Hanwei Tacticool XL, to finish up the job of cutting for this session. So here's another look at my favorite hard cutter, Hanwei Tacticool XL. Let's see how this does one more time without having rain and being able to have some nice wide cuts with it. So Hanwei Tacticool XL coming up. The difference between the Hanwei Tacticool XL, they're both beefy cutters, and the JKKO that I just cut with is the fact that the Hanwei is just so much more balanced in the hands and lighter. The other one, the JKKO, is just so heavy in the hands, and that's why I kind of, when I returned with that cut, it's so hard to stop it, okay, because there's so much weight to the sword. This is actually a lighter sword, but it's still a very wide blade. It's just that the way I had that JKKO sword made up, it's just too heavy of a sword to cut, and it's hard to stop. So I'm going to enjoy trying to cut now the rest of the session with the Hanwei Practical XL. Beautiful. Fantastic sword. Big difference. Seeing that? These are some of the heaviest, the thickest bamboo in the box. I'm going to see how this Practical XL gets through this. These are probably about 1 inch or more in diameter, and they are drying out already. And even after a week of having it, I can feel that they are drying out. They're starting to get less green, but these are some very heavy-duty bamboo here. Listen guys, for the people that tell you there's no difference from katana to katana, they don't know what they're talking about. There is a difference in swords. There's a difference in how they're made, what they're made for, and it's a tool. And when you're using it for cutting, when you have the right tool in your hands, it just makes the job a lot easier and a lot more efficient. And from going from that hefty JKKO sword to going to this beauty, I mean, it is such an incredible difference in your hands. I mean, the cuts are just wonderful, accurate, controlled. I mean, it's the recipe for an amazing cutter. 1566 steel, expertly tempered by Hanwei, 28.5 inch Nagasa, perfect size for a blade, 5-inch POB. It's a width at the guard at 1.43 inches and a width at the tip at 1.08 inches and an 11-inch suka or handle, which is absolutely perfect. It's definitely my sweet spot. And for all of this beefy, beastie specs on a sword, it's still only about a 2-pound, 11-ounce sword, but it doesn't, the weight makes it, the way it's balanced and how it feels in your hands, it feels even a lot lighter than that. Really a beast of a sword. It was an absolute pleasure to cut with it, to cut bamboo with it. That's what it's designed and made for. Such a difference from one sword to another, and you can see in the cuts and in the control that I have from one sword to another. Not saying I'm a great cutter, but I feel like I'm a great cutter when I have the Hanwei Practical XL in my hand. Really fantastic. Enjoy the rest of the cuts. This sword really came in and completely kicked ass today. Kicked ass. And I like to sharpen my swords, but I gotta tell you, I have not reprofiled or sharpened this sword. To be totally honest, the only thing I did was hone the edge with some really fine belts, like over 2000 grit, just to kind of bring in the edge a little bit, and that's all that was done. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Pod ran out of space. Hanwei Practical XL came in and saved the day. Thanks for watching, guys. See you on next cutting video. More bamboo to come. Session over. Joe, Steel Forging Fire, signing out and out of freaking breath. Must have went through about 30 pieces of bamboo today. So, see you when I see you guys. Later.